Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. If you read the title for this, you can see that I'm going to talk about the second book in series, more specifically like fantasy series than anything else. But you know, usually fantasy is a series and most usually other fiction is not. So there's that. And the reason for this is that I felt like a few years ago when all the YA fantasy, especially trilogies, were coming out, everyone said that the second book was the worst. And that was actually correct for like quite a long while, where the second book was actually terrible. It was just like a middle book, nothing happened there. And it can still be, of course, the case for many series, whereas it just feels like a filler book. It should not happen in the first place. And I still feel like that often if I read a series. Less often if the series is more than 3 books, but especially often if it is a trilogy, just because the second book is merely like a bridge book for the first book and the third book, which is like supposed to be the final, and you are like in this middle place where it just feel like you don't do any progress, and then you have to wait like 2 years for the final book and it just feels sucky. So in this video I wanted to talk about some series where I actually have the second book as the favorite, and even like it's been a few years since I finished the series, it still stands as my like favorite in the whole series, almost like in the whole universe if it has like more than 1 book. I mean, there's only one of them that has a whole universe, but it's fine. And I just wanted to like give them some hype and just say that I love these second books so much, and it still, as I said, stands as my faves, and I'm gonna try to explain why. But yeah, that was my idea for today, for this video, okay? So I hope it makes sense, and let's go and talk about these books. So we are starting strong, and we are starting off with The Dragon Republic by R. Kwang, also the second book in the Poppy War series. And the reason why this is here is because I love it. It's my favorite in the series, obviously. But it's a bit funny because when I read Poppy War for the first time, which is, you know, one of my favorite series of all time, now like literally in top 3 of like the best books I ever read, the whole series though, is that I didn't actually like it that much. I gave it like 3 stars. It was like fine, okay, but I expected so much more. Then I read the second book and it was like everything I ever wanted ever. And thereby later I actually reread the first and second one after one another, and I gave that 5 stars then at that time around. But it's so weird how the second book changed my perspective for a whole series, and it still stands as my favorite to this day. I think like if I was going to rank the whole trilogy, it would be the second, the first, and then the third last. But you know, it's a whole 5-star series books thing. And this whole series follows Rin, who is a really like poor, I was gonna call her peasant, sounds a bit rude, but that's what she is. And then she doesn't want to live in her poor life anymore. She doesn't want to marry this super old dude. So she decides to study for these exams that takes her into the one university in this world that is free, but you need to like be like the top students in like the whole country. And that is like the military university in the land. And then, you know, she's in military university. When war breaks out, they have to step up and like go into the war, and like that's basically her fighting for her country, fighting for her existence, and a lot of other things happening. There's so many things brought up in these books. I don't understand how you haven't heard about them if you didn't know. Of course, it's fantasy, there's magic there, there's just so much tragedy and horribleness in it as well. And a lot of it is also taken from like real life stuff that happened in China. So many like historic things are put into the book. And it's just one of my favorites, as I said. And the reason why I love this so much is that it's a bit weird for me, because like I love a school setting, I love a setup for a story like it was in the first book, so I should have loved that more. But what put me off there was the magic system, actually, because I was just like, what is going on? And here it's just the magic system just really, I think, shown true. And because of stuff that happened in the end of the first book and came into play here, just was so cool. I just love how kind of wandered here, because I know a lot of people actually didn't like this compared to the first book because of the wandering, because of like go from place to place, etc., and like trying to find out like what they're gonna do. I don't know like how to say it like concretely because I don't want to spoil anything, but I love that. I love seeing Rin trying to think her out of these situations, trying to work together with Kitai, trying to like survive, and then just stuff happening between her and like the 2 other, I was gonna say main dudes. It's not a romance, but just like the stuff happening between all of them. I was just like so shook into my bones. And just like, as I said, how it all came together, and just so many plot twists of like the different characters. They go through so much, and it was just so, for me, this story was just so for me. I like right now just like trying to explain it. It was much harder than I thought it would be, but alas, it's my favorite to this day, and I think I need to reread Poppy War soon, so probably next year. I feel it now. But I hope I made 4% sense. And let's go to the next one. Then we have Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb, which is the second book in the Farseer trilogy, which is the first book series trilogy in the realm of the Elder Rings, which follows Fitz, who is the bastard son of the king in waiting. When he finds out that he exists, he like abolishes his, I was gonna say, claim to the throne, and Sis is then Fitz, not Sis. Fitz is then brought up to be the assassin for the king because he has royal blood, and then you're gonna use him. And he also has like magical abilities that the kingdom has, like that is in their royal bloodline, etc. And he needs to survive like in this town and protect their royal family, and yeah, stuff happens. And this is the second book, and I don't know why, but I don't know if people love this as much as I do. I know people like the series as a whole, but the second book just brought me down on my knees. And since then, I don't think anyone in the series has been as emotionally impactful to me as the second book. Like, I love them all dearly. They are amazing books, and like I have only read the first trilogy, the second trilogy, and like I read 2 first ones in the third trilogy. So like I'm not even finished, and I know I'm gonna love all of them, but so far this is still my favorite. And again, it's the second book in the trilogy. And just something about what Fitz went through here, and just how he maneuvered everything in the Six Duchies, which is the name of the kingdom they live in. I just was so into it. I had read the first book, obviously, at this point, obviously, and I remember I really enjoyed it, but it was like shorter, it was like an introduction, but here I feel like everything was just fleshed out much more. I was so intrigued into everything that was going to happen, and I love a lot of people think the third book in the trilogy is like the weakest. I still love that, but like, yes, it is slow paced, and there's a lot of walking in that one, but here it was just much more like intrigue and pieces on a chessboard, and just so many like shocking stuff happened, especially in the end. Was crazy, and I'm still not over it, and I want to reread it really badly when talking about it, and it's still my favorite of all the ones I read so far. We will see if that changes when I read more in the series, but again, second book supremacy here, and yeah, I will love it a lot. So if you like a bit skeptical on the first one, the second one, like the first one I gave 4 stars. This one was one I gave at 5 stars. So that's a thought. And then we have another favorite series. This is basically just all my favorite series, as I realized, almost. And that is A Torch Against the Night by Salva Tahir, which is the second book in an Amber and Ash's quartet. And this one follows Leia, who is a slave and her people are enslaved. She's like a scholar, and the Empire controls the Empire. And the scholars are like really suppressed in the society. Her family's killed, except her brother, which is put to prison. She then needs to go and spy on the commandant, which is the leader of the army for the Empire, for the rebellion, so that they will help her free her brother from prison. And this is really dangerous, obviously. We follow also Elias, who is a mask, who is like the most elite soldiers in the Empire. They're being trained up from a really, really young age to, you know, become a mask. But he doesn't want to be a mask anymore. He wants to escape, which is obviously, you know, punishable by death if you get caught. So he needs to figure out like how to go around about this escape. And Laia and Elias's paths definitely, of course, meets. And it's a really, really fun YA series that is really dear to my heart. Obviously, I read the first book, and that was instantly 5 stars. That was one I didn't read as much as I do now, and I was just so shocked of how fast I read that, and it like captured my heart instantly. And then I read the second book, which again stands as my favorite. Like the third and fourth are amazing, but I do think the first and the second are like the best ones. But the second one, what to say? The betrayal, the reveals, the character development for me was just everything. And again, there's again a lot of journey here and a lot of walking, but I was just so into it and just finding out about so many things about the characters. And then here we also get a new point of view, which is Helen, which is Eliza's best friend. And she's just amazing, and the stuff she does. And oh, the ending, oh my god, the ending on all parts, totally nutballs, and I will get behind it anytime. I want to reread this again when I'm talking about it. I have read it twice, and I loved it as much every time, and even the second time I read it, I had forgotten the plot twist, so I got surprised once again, and also just like, oh my god, I already knew this, why am I so surprised? And it was the best time. So yeah, I just love the second book so much. Like here, the first and second book though, I think are really close together, but the second book, superior. So again, really recommend. Then we actually have a Norwegian book, which is Rota by Sida Pettersen. This is the second book in the Rainbow trilogy, which is now translated into English, and this book in the series is called The Rot. but Rota means the rot. Obviously I read it in Norwegian, and I read it long before it came out in English because it is a Norwegian fantasy trilogy. It is one of the most popular Norwegian fantasy books in the whole country. So that's really cool, and I really recommend you checking it out. So this one follows Hirka, who is born without a tail, because everyone in this magical world, kind of inspired a bit by like Nordic myths and stuff, has tails, but she doesn't have one. She sees the tailless one, and she has been bullied and like harassed for this her whole life. And then we are coming to this like rite that everyone does when they're at a certain age, where they like test you if you have the rot inside of you. And she's convinced she has the rot inside of her because she doesn't have this tail. Oh god, I'm trying to remember. It's hard to describe the first book. But then they all like go to the city and they all believe in this raven that is like their god in a way. And then they also test if people have like the ability to like, I was gonna say summon magic, but I don't remember the concrete English word for it. She thinks that she might have rot and not the magic, but she does feel something inside of her. And it sounds really weird when I describe it like that, but I definitely can convince you that it is much better than I just described. It is such a solid book where we have this society that is kind of now being, I was gonna say, affronted of everything in its society, because there's still a lot of things there that is not working out. And then we have the ending for the first book, which is totally crazy, where we enter something completely else in this one. Like, it's a completely different book, and I loved it. Like, I really enjoyed the first book when I first read it, but then when I read this, I was so into the story. It is so... I want to cry just thinking about it, because there's one character here that literally is so extra. He goes out extra like 450,000 times than he needs to be, and I love him to death. I love him so much. He was so extra, and I told the author this when I met her. I was just like, is he okay? And she was like, no. And I was like, thank you. And then we also have plot twist in here that shook my brain, because I was like coming to the conclusion by myself like a bit seconds before it happened in the book, but I think like that's on purpose so that the reader will realize, and then it's just exploded and my mind was blown. And I think like when you read the first book, you don't expect at all where we go in the second one or in the third one, so it's just the best time. Recommend so much. And the second book still says my favorite, one of my favorite books like ever. Guess what? I do really want to reread it. I actually reread the first one in English because I got it on NetGalley when it was released in English, and I want to reread it, but I haven't read the second one. I want to reread that in English too. I think that would be fun, just because why not? So yeah, I need to get on that, but time, money, yay. But yeah, really recommend that, and I suggest you checking it out, because there's no excuse now, because now it is out in English. Then we have Ropersmith by Jessica Townsend, which is the second book in the Nevermore series, which follows Morgan Crow, who was cursed when she was a kid, and when she was 11 years old she was supposed to die, but something else happens when she's 11. You need to read the book to find out. So in the second book, it's just my favorite. The first one I really enjoyed. I had a really good time with it. I gave it 4 stars. It was a really cute, fun middle grade, really whimsical and fun. But here they stepped up the game. It was just so intriguing to see like them, I don't know, realizing stuff and coming to terms with stuff. And I was just like so into the story. I read the third one too, and I really enjoyed that. But it was not as good as the second one. The second one for me is the favorite and the strongest one so far. I'm really excited to read the fourth one and see what I think about that. It was just everything I wanted. Like, it was everything I wanted to happen. And then we are going on paths that I really enjoy to see the conclusion of. So yeah, really recommend. And overall though, the whole vibe is just good and whimsical and fun. So this is not any different. And then lastly we have Frostheart, Escape from Aurora by Jamie Littler. And this one is the second book in the Frostheart trilogy. And the Frostheart is set like kinda in this icy world. All the humans are like in different like settled places. And if you travel between them, it's really like dangerous, because there's like Levitans out there that is trying to kill you. And we have our main character who's a Songweaver. And people believe that the Levitans can control the Songweavers. So they're like really wary of him, like that suddenly he will just break out and murder someone. And he's deciding now to escape from like his home place to go out and try to find his parents that disappeared many years ago when he was a child. I mean, he's still a child, when he was even a younger child. And he's going out to just joining this crew, and it's a really great time. It's really like frosty and cute, and I really did enjoy the first book. While I do think I had a bit high expectations for it, but I really still did enjoy it. It was in this second book everything stepped up. It was just so good and fun because now you were like used to the story, the reveals coming out. I feel like actually more the first book was more of a setup book for the second one than anything else, than like the second one being a setup book for the third one. I don't know how to describe it because it feels like really like of a whole story. Like the third one was really fun and the emotions were high, but there's just something about the second one that was just so fun, especially with like the reveals coming. And again, I just enjoyed the journey because I felt like here the journey was more completed than in the first one, as I said, because we kind of stopped midway through in it. But here like we actually get the completion, and then the third one is like a fallout of all that. So like it's a bit like different, I was gonna say like setup, because usually I think what would have happened is that normally the first book would have ended with this one, and then we would just have like a middle with nothing, and then we would have the third book that was the third book. That's like in my head, but I still think it was just such a cute and wholesome series overall. But the second one stands as my favorite. It just had the best parts, so in my opinion. But yeah, that was some second books I remembered that literally are my favorites. There's probably more that I could think of. Maybe a second part of this video will come out in 1400 years. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed just hearing me read about some of these books. I feel like I talked about them so many times. Like I feel like I'm just talking about the same books over and over, even though like I have a billion books, but that's just how I feel sometimes. You shall see me soon in a new video. Check out my Patreon down below if you want to support my channel further. And you shall see me soon in a new one. Leave a 2-number emoji down below if you enjoyed this, because we are on the second books here. And you shall see me soon. Bye!